meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 11 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills and Social Development and the Status of Persons with Disabilities. Pursuant to the orders of reference of March 24th, April 11th, and April 20th, 2020, the committee is meeting for the purpose of receiving evidence concerning matters related to the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Today's meeting is taking place by video conference, and the proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website. The website will always show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee. In order to facilitate the work of our interpreters and to ensure an orderly meeting, I would like to outline a few rules to follow. Interpretation in this video conference will work very much like a regular committee meeting. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either Floor, English, or French. In order to resolve sound issues, please ensure that you're on the English channel when speaking English and on the French channel when speaking French. If you plan to alternate from one language to the other, please also switch the interpretation channel so it aligns with the language you are speaking. Before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. When you are ready to speak, please click on the microphone icon to activate your mic. A reminder that all comments by members and witnesses should be addressed through the chair. Should members need to request the floor outside of the designated time for questions, they should activate their mic and state that they have a point of order. If they wish to speak to a point of order raised by one of their colleagues, please use the raise hand function. When speaking, please speak slowly and clearly. When you're not speaking, your mic should be on mute. Thank you to everyone who is using headsets. For anyone who's using the earbuds with the integrated microphone, just please ensure that the microphone isn't rubbing against your shirt when you're speaking. Should any technical challenges arise, for example, in relation to interpretation, or if you're accidentally disconnected, please advise the chair or the clerk immediately, and the technical team will work to resolve them. Please note that we may need to suspend during these times, as we need to ensure all members are able to fully participate. If you haven't already done so, if you could, on the top right of your screen, click on Gallery View so that you can see everyone. Now, I would like to thank our witnesses for joining us today. With us today, we have the Minister of Seniors, the Honourable Deb Schult, accompanying her from Employment and Social Development Canada, Benoit Robidoux, Assistant Deputy Minister, Catherine McDade, Senior Assistant Deputy Minister, Income Security and Social Development Branch, Janet Goulding, Assistant Deputy Minister, Income Security and Social Development Branch, Cliff Groen, Assistant Deputy Minister, Service Canada, and finally, Stephanie Hébert, Assistant Deputy Minister, Program Operations Branch. Minister Schult, please proceed with your opening remarks.
Good morning, bonjour. Monsieur le Président, chers membres du comité.
Mr. Speaker, dear members of the committee, I'm very happy to be here today with you today. I'm happy to have this opportunity for the first time to be with your committee.
We know seniors are at increased risk of more severe outcomes from COVID-19 and are negatively impacted by the pandemic. They need our help and our support. As Minister of Seniors and member of the Ad Hoc Committee on COVID-19, I am committed to ensure that seniors' needs across Canada are carefully considered and addressed. Since the pandemic was declared, I've been in contact with my provincial and territorial counterparts and have heard from many stakeholders as well as the National Seniors Council. And what I'm hearing is informing the Government of Canada's response to the pandemic. To protect seniors' financial security during these uncertain times, the government has introduced the following measures. We are providing a one-time tax-free payment of $300 for seniors eligible for old age security and an additional $200 for seniors eligible for the guaranteed income supplement. This means that low-income seniors who are eligible to receive both the old age security and guaranteed income supplement will receive $500 to help them cover increased costs caused by COVID-19. A couple both receiving GIS special payment and the GST credit special payment could receive, on average, a total over $1,500 to help them cope with the pandemic. In April, low and middle income seniors received a supplementary payment under the GST credit worth an average of $375 for singles and, on average, $510 for couples. We are reducing the minimum withdrawals from the registered retirement income funds by 25% for 2020. We've also adopted measures to ensure that guaranteed income supplement payments continue without interruption if seniors' 2019 income information has not been received. In addition, the government created the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, short form CERB, to help all Canadians, including working seniors, from financial hardships as a result of a loss of employment income. And that's due to the COVID-19. Pension benefits do not affect eligibility. I want to address the situation in long-term care homes. As you know, seniors living in these facilities are the hardest hit in this pandemic. While long-term care is regulated by provincial and territorial governments, the federal government is working together in a Team Canada approach to help residents and staff stay safe. We released interim guidelines for long-term care homes to prevent and control COVID-19 infections. We invested $2 billion to purchase personal protective equipment for essential health workers, including long-term care workers. And we have provided $3 billion to provinces and territories to increase the wages of low-income essential workers, such as long-term care workers. We deployed personnel from the Canadian Armed Forces to 25 long-term care facilities, both in Quebec and in Ontario. That's 20 in Quebec and 5 long-term care facilities in Ontario. As the Prime Minister has said, there are serious underlying challenges facing these facilities, and in the coming months, the federal government will work alongside the provinces and territories to find lasting solutions. Finally, the government is providing funding to support vulnerable Canadians, including seniors, with over $500 million in funding to United Way Centraide, Canada, the Canadian Red Cross, Community Foundations of Canada, and local food banks and local food organizations. We are providing flexibility for $50 million of previously funded New Horizons for Seniors projects so that they can now use their funds to meet the needs seniors are facing due to COVID-19. We also announced an additional investment of $20 million in community projects that reduce isolation, improve seniors' quality of life, and help them maintain the social support networks that they so desperately need. In closing, je vous remercie.
I thank you for giving me this opportunity to present to you what the government has done to protect our seniors in this difficult period.
Between the channels, sorry. I just want to give my personal shout out and thanks to the chair and the committee for the excellent work that you're doing. And now I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you, Madam Minister. Fortunately, we do have questions. We're going to start with Mr. Shields, please, for 6 minutes. Welcome to the committee, Mr. Shields. Just need to turn yourself off of mute, and activate your mic, and you're good to go, sir.
That would help if I turn the mic on. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Always good to see you, Minister. Appreciate your work you're doing for seniors. I know you've run through the list of things that you've worked on, and one of the things that when you met with the Shadow Minister and myself, and we discussed in the letter, was the RIF piece. And I know you've talked about the 25%. But what we're hearing constantly is 2 pieces to the RIF. We have those people who would like for it to stay 100% within the fund, and those who would like to take more out without penalty. So I'm sure you've heard this. I'm sure you've looked into it. I'm sure you've discussed this with your staff and finance. What are your thoughts and what have you learned about this particular aspect? Because it is a significant request that we're hearing from seniors.
Thank you very much. And I do want to say it's very nice to be back in the committee forum with you. I really enjoyed working with you over so many years on the Environment Committee. This is definitely, those are two things that we're hearing, along with many other suggestions that seniors are sending us, telling us that they'd like us to consider. Those considerations that you have brought forward are ones that were being considered before the COVID pandemic. Obviously, our focus right now for the government is to get money in the hands of seniors in need, especially our vulnerable seniors, to make sure that they can deal with the very immediate cost increases that they've seen as a result of groceries going up, transportation costs going up, increase in medication dispensing fees, all of those things we've heard loud and clear. And so the focus was to get the money in the hands of Canadian seniors in need right now. These other considerations, the stock market is fluctuating up and down. We immediately addressed that with a 25% reduction in their mandatory withdrawals out of the RIFs. And I have to say that we are keeping close eye on what is going on with the market and also seniors' needs across the country during this time. So we'll keep considering these suggestions and keep them in mind as we move forward dealing with the pandemic implications and impacts to seniors. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would suggest that those two changes don't take a lot of bureaucratic staff to do. We don't need a lot of staff to do them, and they would put money in the hands of people very quickly. And it wouldn't take a lot of changes to do that. A couple of regulation changes on either one of those, and it's money in the hands of seniors or protecting their investments. So it could be done very simply. So I still hope you would continue to look at that and consider them seriously. There's another issue that filing of income tax forms, in the sense that I'm still familiar with paper forms for income tax. And we hear from seniors who are used to doing paper forms. But as you may have noticed in the CRA, people mentioning that those forms are being mailed in and being left sitting in an office in Ottawa because CRA people are working from home. So seniors who, there again, money that in refunds that they could use very quickly are not returning. So any response to that issue that you've probably heard of?
Definitely have heard of the impacts. All industries, including our own government, organizations and sort of the Canada Post, have been experiencing difficulties with people who get sick from COVID-19 or having to stay home, and the implications of physical distancing that now need to be put into the workplace and working from home. Obviously, Canada Post is not going to have a working from home environment. They're going to need to put in practices, and we've seen that they are working very hard to do that. Their intent is to make sure that the mail gets to customers as fast as possible, and they're working on those issues that have been obviously identified recently. So, but for the government, in terms of making sure that Canadian, especially seniors, receive those important benefits that they need, we are encouraging them to do as much online banking as they can, and you're absolutely right. There are those that don't, so we're doing everything we can to make sure those checks get to seniors that need them, and that our programs that we're implementing are to be as easy as possible, which is why we are not making our benefit where someone has to apply, because that just makes it very complicated for those seniors that, as you mentioned, aren't online. Thank you.
Good, thank you. I hope you follow that up with CRA and those forms move out and get dealt with. Thank you. Another one that you're very familiar with is the medications. So seniors are very concerned with the 3-month to 1 month for renewing medications. As you would realize, this means that they have to leave their homes, and they're concerned about leaving their homes in this times of isolation. They're concerned about volunteers or the lack of volunteers to go get these medications. And they're really concerned about why do we have a shortage in Canada? So those three things, in the sense of medications, increased dispensing fees because you got to do it monthly if you're not on a plan, those are causing significant concerns to seniors with medications and availability and the 1 month issuing.
Short answer, please, Minister.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to say that we are fully aware of the challenges
Thank you very much, Mr. Shields. Thank you, Minister. Next, we have Mr. Long for 6 minutes, please.
Well, thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and good morning to the rest of my colleagues from St. John, New Brunswick. It's wonderful to have our minister here today. So I have a question for you, Minister. First, thank you for taking the time to join us today to talk about what our federal government is doing to support seniors during this incredibly challenging time for them and for all Canadians. Over the past 2 months, my team and I have talked to hundreds of seniors living on fixed incomes in my riding of St. John Rothesay, who are facing significant increased costs for things like groceries, grocery deliveries, and medications as a result of COVID-19. And I have been advocating for federal financial relief for seniors on their behalf. That's why I was thrilled to be able to share the news of the OAS and GIS top-up you announced on Monday with seniors in my riding. Can you tell us about the impact of the COVID-19 financial relief measures we have announced to date, the impact that they will have on the average senior couple? And can you also explain why the top-up to OAS and GIS payments is the most effective way to deliver COVID-19 financial relief to seniors living on fixed incomes? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your advocacy. It's like MPs like yourself have been writing and reflecting on the important messages that they've been getting from their constituents. We've been hearing it also through the ministry, and I've been hearing it in my riding. Seniors are really struggling with these additional costs and also with isolation. So what we announced this week addresses those two things quite directly. We have made it very simple to be able to access this benefit, in that you do not have to apply. If you are receiving OAS or you are eligible for old age security, you will be receiving the $300 one-time special payment, and you don't have to apply. That is also true if you're receiving guaranteed income supplement. You will get a special payment of an additional $200. So for a couple that are on GIS, or guaranteed income supplement, they will get $1,000 from this new initiative, new measure that we've brought forward this week, and couple that with the GST top-up from April that they would have received. On average, they would have received as a couple $510. So if you add the two, that's almost it's over $15,000. $1,500, sorry, having trouble with my math today, $1,500 of immediate COVID-19 support. That is a significant help to those seniors that are struggling with those additional costs. And to address the other issue of isolation, we've upped the New Horizons for Seniors money, which is money that goes directly to groups that are on the ground in communities serving seniors. So accessing those groceries, getting those supplies, they need help. If they're in their home, they can't go out, they're afraid to go out, then now they have community support to help them.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you very much for that. I want to share the rest of my time with MP Dong. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you, Chair, and thank you to MP Long for sharing the time. Minister, good to see you here. As you know, I was a member of the Ontario legislature. I know that the current Ontario government has taken a very different approach when it comes to long-term homes, long-term care homes, and then compared to the previous government, in terms of funding and policy priorities. I've seen it. I've seen the effects of it on the ground in my riding of Don Valley North. So going forward, how are you going to work with your cabinet colleagues and a premier across the country to make sure that what we've seen in COVID-19, that that the effect to the vulnerable population living in the long-term care homes is not going to happen again going forward?
Well, thank you very much for that question. We've all been struck by the horrors that we have seen in the news with seniors being negatively affected in these homes. I just want to make a point that not all homes are challenged like this. There are many well-run homes, and those are both private and public. I have my mother-in-law in a long-term care home and my father-in-law in a seniors residence, and I can tell you that the staff there on the front lines supporting them are excellent, and they're well-run homes. So it is not a every home is not facing these challenges, but every home is working very hard to keep seniors safe, and you're definitely seeing that some are not doing well. So the federal government immediately wanted to provide support. It is regulated by provinces and territories. However, we have been there, as I mentioned, as a Team Canada approach. Rather than wrangling over things, it's what do we need to do right now to keep the staff and the residents in these homes safe. So we immediately asked, what can we do? I heard on my calls that they needed help understanding what would be the guidance that were needed to keep people safe. So we very quickly, Public Health Canada, work with the public health agencies across the country to come up with guidance to help these homes keep their residents and staff safe. We knew there was a personal protective equipment issue in acquiring that with a world shortage in these supplies. So we worked 24/7 engaging with all the resources we had to bring in as much PPE and engage with businesses in Canada that were looking at a Building Canada approach. And many have taken up the torch, and I give much credit to companies that have stepped in to start working on building PPE to support our essential workers that are working so hard to keep us safe. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Dong.
We now move on to Ms. Larouche for 6 minutes. Welcome to the committee. You have the floor. Good morning. Welcome, Minister. It's a pleasure to be able to meet with you here this morning. As soon as I arrived at the House on December 6th, 2019, I had the opportunity to ask a question with regard to the importance of increasing OAS by $110. And you crossed the floor to come and see me, to thank me, and tell me that it was a good question, the question I put to you. So today, during this crisis, and even after the crisis, the pandemic, will that decision remain, the need to increase pension funding for our seniors? Thank you very much for the question.
Remains committed to implementing our policies and our platform commitments. At this time, we are focusing on what we need to do to help seniors during the pandemic. And this is why we have worked to do a very quick implementation of money, a one-time quick payment that is to get the money in the hands of our seniors quickly. And that is why we did it this way. But you can be sure the government remains committed to implementing our policies that were in our platform.
Oui, en effet, Madame.
Yes, indeed, Minister. It was even a promise that you made to increase pension funding. It was $110 per month as of the age of 65, as well as OAS for seniors in need. And you said here, with regard to this announcement, that it's to get through this crisis. But what's going to happen over the course of the summer? What's going to happen afterwards? You're saying that you want to go back to your campaign promises. So after the crisis, will that increase of GIS and OS be brought about? Because we're living through this crisis now. Medication is costing more and more. People have to pay to have their groceries delivered, and their basket is increasing. Its cost is rising. Sometimes they have to go by taxi to the pharmacy or the grocery store. So these are all additional costs for seniors. After the crisis, these needs will remain. So can we expect an announcement from you after the crisis, after the pandemic, to increase funding for seniors?
Say that the government has been watching very closely what has been happening to Canadians during this pandemic. And we are focused right now on dealing with the best way to get Canadians through the impacts that we're having as a result of the pandemic and as a result of the measures that we've had to take to keep people safe and reduce the loss of lives. So I'm very aware that there were increased costs. The seniors wrote, we've been watching the market basket measures and looking at seeing what is actually going on the ground to people that are trying to survive this pandemic. So what I can say is that we have seen that there have been prices that have gone up. We saw the market drop. Now we've seen the market coming back up. We've seen prices go up. Now they're starting to stabilize and go down. We don't know what's going to happen as we move through the next few months. So you can be sure that we're watching very closely what's happening and what measures may need to be done to help get Canadians through, especially our seniors.
Merci. Donc, j'avais cette demande pendant la campagne. On l'a rappelé dès le début de notre arrivée à Ottawa. On en a fait une condition d'ailleurs aussi pour l'appui au budget et on l'a martelé.
We wanted to add this to the budget. So 3 times I asked this question. I asked for extra assistance. So finally, let's hope that this will not be temporary, but that there will be something else after the crisis. Now, seniors are very concerned with regards to the state of our healthcare system. We saw this whole issue of the long-term care homes in Quebec, seniors' homes, and the services that are being provided. This crisis demonstrates that it is high time and more than time to increase healthcare transfers. This has to be recurring assistance. It is important. It has to go up to 6%. After the crisis, healthcare needs will remain. Is the minister also aware that the government will have to deal with this issue? It's more than urgent. That is to increase healthcare transfers to the provinces and to Quebec.
Thank you very much. And I just want, can you hear me now? I just want to assure the member that that this is an issue that my colleague, the Minister of Health, would probably be best to address. That is something that probably the committee should invite her to come and join you. We have been very supportive of the provinces during this pandemic to help address the cost, the increased costs. We gave over $500 million to provinces and territories at the very beginning of this to assist them with their healthcare costs and to help them get ready to address the rising costs that would be and the changes that they would need to do to get the healthcare system ready for the pandemic. We, as I mentioned before, we put $2 billion on the table for protective equipment for essential workers, including those on the front line in healthcare. We also have provided $3 billion to the provinces and territories to help them with wage subsidies for those frontline workers, especially long-term care workers that needed to be properly compensated for working in the environment that they're working in. So we've been putting tremendous amount of money on the table to support the provinces and territories in the health sector, and we'll be continuing to be there for the provinces and territories. You've heard the Prime Minister, we're there with our military actually going in and supporting 25 long-term care centers with people.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Mrs. Laroche.
6 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for coming to our committee. With respect to seniors, on the long-term care situation, 82% of the COVID-19 deaths are in long-term care. And so to that end, while it is provincial jurisdiction, we also, I think, have federal responsibility as well. Would the minister agree that we need to set national standards and that the federal government should work with the provinces on a care guarantee and also to properly fund healthcare services in transfer payments to all the provinces and territories?
So as I mentioned before, this is probably a question that the committee should be inviting the Minister of Health to come and address. I am working in partnership with her to support the long-term care, the requests from the provinces for long-term care. So, and I've been talking to my colleagues, the provinces and territories, to determine what assistance they need from us right now, because it is a crisis, and it's not a crisis across the country. It seems to be, BC started off with an issue, and
Thank you, Minister. Sorry, I don't have that much time. So, but my question is for you as the Minister of Seniors: are you at the cabinet table, the cabinet committee table, advocating for a national standard and for a care guarantee for seniors across the province in long-term care delivery?
I'm going to have to defer this question to the Minister of Health, and I am working with her at this time to address the crisis today that we're seeing in some provinces for long-term care.
So what I'm hearing from you, Minister, is that you have no opinion on this, and you're not confirming that you're advocating for seniors. Then what is the Minister of Senior doing? I have to ask that question because that worries me greatly. If you're the Minister of Senior, I would hope that you're at that table advocating for seniors for national standard and a guaranteed care care system for all seniors across the country. I'd like to turn to another issue, and that is on the new announcement. The NDP pushed the government to come in with support for seniors and people with disabilities. And that happened in the House. And the government made the announcement most recently. The government actually set a standard of CERB, the CRB, demonstrating that demonstrating the understanding that Canadians need at least $2,000 a month to survive. Yet seniors on fixed low income only got one-time payments in the announcement, as well as the GST. And with many of the community resources closed due to COVID-19, the cost of living for seniors has increased, and they're struggling more than ever. So my question is the minister advocating at the table for low-income seniors to actually have their income topped up to $2,000 each month, not just one-time payments, but each month?
There's quite a lot in your question to unpack there, and I just want to go back to the first point that you made. You can be darn sure that as a Minister of Seniors and as a member of the COVID committee, I am advocating very strongly to support seniors in every way that we can during this challenging time. And to address the issue that you raised in terms of what are we doing for low-income seniors, yes, we did support low to modest income seniors along with other Canadians with a GST top-up that came to $375.
Sorry, Minister, we've heard that part already. If you're advocating at the table, then can you confirm for the committee that you support national standards for long-term care for seniors and that you support a care guarantee for all seniors across the country?
What I can assure you is that we are addressing the urgent needs that are arising right now in long-term care and working in partnership with the provinces and territories. And we will be working with the provinces and territories after we get through this crisis to do an assessment. What needs to be done and how can we work together to get that done?
It's a fairly straightforward answer or question for the minister about whether or not you support a guarantee care system for seniors. And I did not hear an answer from the minister on that. On the CERB, what the government has provided are one-time funding for seniors. Seniors need this on an ongoing basis. We just heard previously that on the question about increasing the pension for seniors, the government has parked that now because of COVID-19. So especially in light of that, shouldn't we actually, during this COVID pandemic, support seniors and recognizing that the minimum standard to which the government has said will serve, that it is $2,000 a month to survive? Shouldn't senior be treated the same? Why are they being treated as second-class citizens?
I want to remind the member that seniors are continuing to receive their benefits during this pandemic.
Yes, and what I'm talking about is a top-up, though.
Those that are on CERB have lost their income and don't have any. So seniors are in a different situation where they are already getting their benefits. And what we have done is to make sure that we've got the money as quickly as possible in the hands of those low income vulnerable seniors, rather than give a small amount trickled out over many months. We made sure that we got it in their hands as quickly as possible. And this is in addition to the money that they're already getting through their benefits. It's like putting apples and oranges together. It's not the same, but we did make CERB available to working seniors because we know many seniors are working later in life. So if they lost their jobs due to CERB, then they also will, due to COVID-19, they will also get the CERB benefit. So that's that CERB is available to working seniors that have lost their jobs due to COVID-19 as well.
There's a difference, Minister, is one-time funding versus ongoing monthly support.
Next we have Ms. Cusey for 5 minutes. Ms. Cusey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister, for being here today. It's so nice to see you here, healthy and well. In your announcement this week, you indicated, of course, that you're providing a one-time increase to OAS and GIS, but many seniors receiving these payments aren't struggling financially due to COVID-19. And given that seniors can receive OAS with an annual taxable income up to $128,137, as well, as Conservatives, we're very concerned about the deficit coming out of this. We're already at $252 billion, a debt of $1 trillion. My colleague previously indicated that we have put forward policy options regarding both RIFs as well as RRSPs. So following an idea which we have seen in major media this week after your announcement, the Globe and Mail, as well as academics out of the University of Waterloo, for example, what is the rationale for providing this tax-free benefit so broadly, including to high-income seniors who may not be experiencing financial hardship?
Thank you very much for that question, and it is an important one. Those that are on OAS, Old Age Security, up to an income of $80,000, they will receive the full amount of Old Age Security. After that, they would have normally gotten a clawback. That's a 7% of the seniors that are on Old Age Security. And just to make that clear, there's 6.7 million seniors that are on Old Age Security, and the majority of those, 93%, are living under the $8,000 cutoff limit. So I'm just saying it's not a lot of money. You're making it sound like rich people are getting this benefit. There is a very small number of people that may be getting this that are deemed to be in more well-off circumstances, but the majority, and I said, it's over 90%, are seniors that are trying to cope with these additional costs that is making it difficult for them to be able to put food on the table and make ends meet. There are statistics and information that we've been getting about the incredible rise of seniors going to the food bank to just try to get enough food on the table, can't pay for their medicines that they need. The most important thing was to get a payment as quickly as possible into the hands of those seniors that were struggling. And that was the objective of the government and why we did the one-time payment option to go to old age security recipients and guaranteed income supplement recipients, and to not have to make them have to apply. And you already heard from some of your other committee members where some of those challenges are. We wanted to get it into the hands of seniors.
Why did you not decide to target low-income seniors at this time through providing an increase only to GIS payments?
Well, we've done both. We've addressed those that are facing additional costs and struggling, and we've definitely given more money to those that are at the lower income. Those are people that are living under $18,600 a yearly income. They are on guaranteed income supplement, and so those are getting more. They're getting an additional $200, and if it's a couple on guaranteed income supplement, that totals for them over $1,000 to help them get through the additional costs and cope with the COVID pandemic. I'm not sure if with the officials would like to chime in and give any more information. I'm certainly thinking that might be helpful.
Well, we'll certainly have time for that in the second round, Minister. Thank you. Something that has been of great concern to me is the Service Canada phone system, which has been overwhelmed for months with long wait times and people's inability to get through. Absolutely, it inadvertently impacts seniors. As for many, the phone is their only form of communication right now. And since Service Canada centres are closed, it makes it more difficult for seniors, and many seniors, of course, aren't comfortable using the internet. So I'm wondering what you've done to ensure seniors have received timely access to Service Canada so that they can access the benefits that they need, please.
Short answer, please, Minister.
Thank you. What we've done is put extra staff into Service Canada and into the areas that need to be able to work on getting these benefits out the door. So we've been assigning staff accordingly within the department to try to help reduce those backlogs. There was a peak as new programs came on, and then they've evened out and it's gotten better. So I just want to say we're very mindful. We're keeping an eye on that and putting more resources where required so that Canadians and seniors can get the benefits that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Ms. QC. Next, we have Ms. Young for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to be, I'm going to be sharing my time with one of my other colleagues. Through you, I'd like to talk to Minister Schultz, and I want to commend the great work that you have done as Minister of Seniors. You'll recall when we both became MPs in 2015, we both expressed real concern that there wasn't a full minister designated for seniors issues, and hadn't been for some time. And you quickly brought together a number of MPs and formed a seniors caucus. And I was happy to be a part of that to address some of the issues that seniors are facing. And I was certainly thrilled when you were named Minister of Seniors. I was going over some statistics, and according to the Canadian Income Survey released this year, the number of seniors living in poverty is still high. However, it's significantly better than it was in 2014 when a staggering 28% of seniors, or single seniors, were living in poverty. Now it's 8%. And COVID-19 has really shone a light on these seniors' issues. How are we assisting these vulnerable seniors specifically to make sure they don't turn into living in poverty? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that we've come a long way. The government has been working since day one on improving the situation for seniors. You know that we did a GST top up in our very early budget to try and help those very low income and vulnerable seniors to help them get through, because there were too many seniors living in poverty. And we've had through our measures, a significant improvement in the circumstances for seniors across Canada. However, during this pandemic, we've seen that seniors again are struggling, especially our more vulnerable seniors, and this is why we did the program to provide the benefit, the $300 for those on old age security, $300, and an additional $200 for the more vulnerable that are on guaranteed income supplement with the $200 improvement. And as I said before, that with the money that they got in April for the GST top-up has helped a couple on guaranteed income supplement by over $1,500 on average. That's a significant help for vulnerable seniors during this COVID pandemic. What we've also done, and we haven't talked about, is there's a lot of seniors, they're afraid to come out of their homes. They don't have access to the public transit the way they used to because they're afraid to go on public transit. So if they need to go somewhere, they're often taking a taxi. So they're seeing a tremendous impact on their finances because they're having to spend more. They're having to spend more on the drugs. That was raised before by one of the members on the committee, that provinces are limiting the amount of drugs that that people are able to have to a 1 month, which means now you have additional dispensing fees. There's a long list of impact that seniors are facing, and our vulnerable seniors are most affected. So one of the things that we're doing is putting in significant investments in community organizations to help support seniors. And we see so many stepping up across the country, organizations stepping up, specifically reaching out to seniors, making sure they get the groceries they need, making sure they have a hot meal. And this is coming through over $500 million of money that we have flowed into charities and supports for vulnerable Canadians, including seniors. And part of our announcement this week was an additional $20 million of New Horizons money, because we are always oversubscribed in New Horizons program, where community groups, seniors want to help seniors. And in this environment, I've been so impressed with the creativeness that people have brought to how to bring seniors together, keeping them in their homes, keeping them safe, but making sure they feel a very connected part of the community. I'll just give you an example if you have the time.
Well,
maybe not.
Thank you so much, Minister Stoltz. I really want to allow my colleague, Member Turnbull, to ask a question. So thank you very much.
I'm very sorry, Member Turnbull, but there are about 15 seconds left if you want to make a quick comment, but you won't have time for a response.
Minister, I just want to say that you've been a tireless advocate for seniors, and as you know, I've been advocating for the seniors in my riding quite strongly, and I found you to be very responsive and very active. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for that and to say thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Turnbull. Next,
and we have shout out to you.
Next, we have Mr. Shields for 5 minutes.
Unmute ourselves and away we go. One of the things you've mentioned was New Horizons and the seniors in the sense of those supports that you talk about. We've got two challenges with that. Many seniors who used to be volunteers for Meals on Wheels, delivering things for seniors, they are not doing this any longer because they are afraid, they're isolating, they don't want to go out. So our seniors really, from what I'm hearing, have withdrawn to a significant amount because of that. Secondly, when we talk about the New Horizons, PPE is a real challenge. I mean, as we relaunch and open businesses, we've got a lot of businesses like dental and healthcare, chiropractor, they can't get PPE. So our volunteer base is further down that line in a sense of securing PPE. And so people volunteering is one thing, but without those resources, we've got a real challenge.
Thank you very much. And that's two kind of thoughts there, which I'll address. You're absolutely right. There are many seniors that are isolating in their homes, doing exactly what they need to do to stay safe, especially if they have more complicated health challenges. So the New Horizons for Seniors program money, including the $9 million that we gave to United Way and Centraid, specifically to support seniors. The additional, the $50 million that we have generally provided to local organizations. I have seen a significant number of organizations pivot, well, maybe pivot's not the right word, but to modify their programs so that they can get volunteers, because you're right. Seniors volunteer, they have time and they have enthusiasm and they want to get involved. So, and they want to share their wisdom and their knowledge. So they're usually the ones that are out volunteering to support seniors. And if they're staying home, then we don't have those. So we've been encouraging organizations to potentially hire students. And you can see through the Canada Summer Jobs that we've been also put that into play as well, so that groups that want to hire students to be able to help seniors and support them in their homes and keep them connected, train them on the video equipment, get them iPads. These are things that we are allowing the New Horizons for Seniors money to be available for, and it's making a big difference in the lives of seniors right today. And it will also be helping some of our students in getting some jobs, and it's helping keep people employed during this difficult time. The other issue you rose was protective equipment. And so this is part of the push that the government has done to acquire as much protective equipment as we can, so that we will have some stockpiles available for essential services. And we're also engaging and ramping up the opportunity for businesses in Canada and putting orders with them and getting them going, so that giving them their certifications and what's required so that they can provide this equipment and start getting a national amount of PPE so that we can open up and get back to work safely.
Thank you, Minister. And again, those volunteers are at the lower end of anybody getting PPE equipment. They really are. They're not going to get it. There's demands much, much higher on the list than they are, and that is a real problem. But the money coming to New Horizons, as you mentioned, United Way is not in my constituency, as is not in many rural ones. When is this money coming out to organizations like New Horizons? When will they receive it?
So most communities, most ridings had New Horizons money that came to organizations in January. That money, we recently alerted those organizations that they have an opportunity to change their program. They didn't need to have to reapply if they met some new criteria in terms of supporting seniors in a different way, hiring volunteers, providing groceries and supports, providing equipment so that they could stay connected, getting volunteers to make phone calls and to connect with seniors. These are things that the New Horizons for Seniors program is now allowing those in your community today that had money in January to use that money in this way. They have the opportunity to not do that and wait until they can do their regular programming, because not everybody can change what they had in mind. But and many are making those changes and providing the support that they want to, through these allowable categories, and they don't need to reapply. They can just use the money right now today. So that money is in communities on the ground already, and we've just added another $20 million to have organizations that didn't get the money before but want to do that kind of work in communities to be able to access an additional funding to do that. So you will see it on the ground, even in those communities that don't have United Way or Centraid or Red Cross, which is another group that we've provided money to help seniors as well. We put $100 million on the table with Food Bank, Food Share, and they've been distributing that money throughout the country as well through their food bank networks.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Mr. Shields. Next, we're back to the Liberals for 5 minutes. I think it's Mr. Turnbull, but I could be wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll be splitting my time with MP Vaughan. Minister, it's great to have you here. As I said, I'll get right down to the questions. So like many seniors, I think at this time they're self-isolating, they're homebound, many are in long-term care facilities, and they're not able to have visitors come in and out. I know that this is having a significant impact on the mental health of our seniors. They're feeling isolated even more so than they normally talk about, which I think is often a comment that seniors make. My mother's in this situation right now in long-term care. I wondered if you could tell us about what we're doing to support seniors that are feeling isolated and whether you have any advice for them. And you're on mute.
Thank you very much. Still getting used to this. Absolutely. These are the seniors that we're concerned about, and we're concerned about their mental health. Something I haven't had a chance to mention yet is that we launched a new online portal called Wellness Together Canada. That's ca.portal.gs. And this is a portal that will help seniors to be able to connect with those with experience, to be able to help them understand that they're not alone, even though they're isolated, and it is a very scary time for them. It gives them the supports that they need, and the connections that they need. That's so important at this time. But I do want to go back to the New Horizons for Seniors money that we've just announced, and also the money that is already in the communities through United Way Centraid and through the New Horizons for Seniors regular organizations that have been supporting seniors. They have been incredibly creative. I was going to say this before with member Kate there, that we have seen incredible creativity. Let's just give you an example. There's a organization called HOPE. They have 150 seniors in the community that are part of their network. They usually get together twice a week to do yoga on one day, and I think they have make a lunch and have a education session on either diet, health. Oh, sorry, am I cutting you? Anyway, I'm going off, but I just want you to know that we have been putting a significant funding in the community, and people have been picking it up and running with it and doing some incredible things to support seniors.
Thank you, Minister. I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to make sure MP Vaughan gets a chance. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Just a quick couple of questions. When did work in your department start on a COVID response?
Oh my goodness. I would say, I'm going to turn to the to my
well before.
Well
before March.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, so it wasn't a prompt from the opposition.
Oh no, my goodness, we started. Yeah.
And in terms of the budget submission, that's part of the ongoing process of Parliament. You are making budget submissions around boosting seniors' support, consistent with our campaign platform.
So what we are doing right now is focusing on getting programs that are needed to support seniors at this time. So we are definitely focused
But just to be clear, the budget process is also going on in parallel, and submissions to that budget process are consistent with our campaign platform, while we also respond in real time to the emergency.
So it's not exactly the same process as we normally have, but yes.
Okay, and so it's not a question of us just responding through the emergency process. The boosts we made to senior support in our first mandate, which helped 900,000 seniors get more money. The emergency response is another step forward, which includes the GST and the boost to OAS and the boost to GI guaranteed income supplement. But there is also coming out of this an expectation that seniors are going to get even more support from our government as we move to lift Canadian seniors out of poverty. That's the goal of this government before, during, and after COVID, is it not?
Yes.
And in terms of the poverty reduction numbers, we have reduced from an all-time high in 2014 the number of seniors living in poverty as a result of direct transfers to seniors.
We should feel very proud of our record in delivering for seniors.
I just want to read two comments to you and get your response to it. One was from a former leader of the Conservative Party who made the comments in regard to long-term care. Rona Ambrose, who's the former leader of the Conservative Party, said, "Unlike some of our predecessors in Ottawa who tried to impose rigid bureaucratic healthcare conformity on the provinces, we've respected their constitutional jurisdiction over healthcare and encouraged innovation. The Conservatives have resisted explicitly providing national standards to healthcare as a way of stepping away from the healthcare responsibilities of the federal government." And I just want to contrast that in as well with the comments that were made by a former minister of seniors and long-term care in Ontario just in November as we walked into the COVID
Mr. Vaughan,
situation.
I'm very sorry to interrupt, but we are past time and there'll be
not a
no
problem.
time for the minister.
I'm just going to highlight that the Conservatives in Ontario cut red tape.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughan. Suite, nous avons Madame Chabot.
We now move on to Ms. Chabot for 2.5 minutes. You have the floor, Ms. Chabot. Go ahead, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Minister, I'm delighted to meet with you. Thank you for making yourself available to us. We're talking about seniors' issues, and talking about them is to talk about a whole generation. And being a senior can be difficult. We are concerned with the situation of those who are more vulnerable because of the crisis. As you know, healthcare for seniors
falls under provincial jurisdiction, so this requires support that isn't just temporary. The connection seems to be weak. This is the interpreter speaking. I'd like to talk about New Horizons. We know that there's New Horizons with United Way in my riding. I must say that we've had to call upon organizations because the information wasn't broadly distributed. That's the first thing. Second thing, the New Horizons program of $20 million came into force a little later, but we don't have any details about it. Might you explain a little bit more to us about this program? Thank you.
For la question.
Thank you very much for the question.
I do want to share a little bit about the New Horizons, the $20 million additional funding that we have. And I do apologize if you did not get enough information. We did send emails out to organizations that are normally involved in the New Horizons for Seniors program to allow them to modify their programs to support seniors in communities. We also did alert MPs to also get out there and to see if they can help organizations to change their programs to be able to better support seniors. But we know that there was more organizations that wanted to do things out supporting their communities for seniors. So this is why we brought the additional $20 million into effect this week. We will be looking at those organizations that already had applied but did not get funding because there wasn't adequate funding, and reaching out to see if they're interested in changing their program to support the seniors today in a new COVID-19 forum, a new way. And if they are, these are the ways that we're going to try to get the money quickly out to organizations to support seniors.
Thank you, Minister. Merci, Madame Chabot.
Thank you, Ms. Chabot.
Commissioner will be Ms. Kwan for 2.5 minutes. Ms. Kwan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The seniors who are receiving the one-time payments as a result of COVID-19, will this amount be counted towards the income for the purposes of GIS calculation next year, or would that be exempt?
Thank you very much for the question. This is tax exempt, so it's a one-time benefit that goes to seniors.
So there will be no implications for seniors next year for their GIS application. I just want to be clear because a lot of seniors are worried about that and they're asking that question.
I do not believe there's going to be an impact on the qualifications for next year. I'll just turn to those that have the expertise, and I'll just turn to our.
Sorry, I'll ask the officials. I'll ask the officials when they come on the next hour.
The answer is no. I understand. My understanding is that there's no impact to those on guaranteed income supplement because it's tax free.
All right, and in terms of the tax year, the taxation time period has been delayed. Regardless of that, though, many seniors may not be able to get their taxes filed on time. Can you provide confirmation that their GIS would not be interrupted even if they don't manage to file? And in fact, would the government consider grandfathering everybody who's receiving GIS this year so that they don't have to worry about having their GIS cut off?
Thank you very much for giving me that opportunity to talk about this, because it was another announcement that we made this week that we haven't had much discussion on. We definitely recognize that there are many seniors that have had difficulty doing their taxes, and many certainly vulnerable seniors. And so we wanted to make sure that their benefits would continue. So I can assure those seniors that have been unable to get their tax filings done, we are not extending the tax filing deadline. It is still June the 1st. We are encouraging all seniors to get their taxes done as soon as possible. And there's some new information that's come out this week to try and help those do it in a virtual way. And we'll be the CRA is going to be reaching out and trying to get as much help as possible to seniors to get their tax filings done, because what's really important is those filings need to be done so that we can be sure that seniors are getting the benefits, the right benefits that they need, and that's important. However, we are not going to be cutting off benefits for seniors as long as they are able to get their filings done before October 1st.
Thank you, Madam Minister. Thank you, Ms. Kwan. That, Madam Minister, completes 2 rounds of questions. I offer a heartfelt thanks to you for coming before us and for providing us with those answers. You're now free to go with our thanks, and we're going to keep your officials around for the second hour. Perhaps we will suspend to allow the minister to unplug, but once again, thank you so much for being with us, Minister.
I just want to say thank you very much to the committee. And again, you're doing amazing work, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come before you. Have a great day.
We're suspended for 3 minutes.
Okay, if I may.
In session with the officials. We're going to begin with our rounds of questions, beginning with Ms. Falk for 6 minutes. Ms. Falk, you have the floor.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just so you know, I will be splitting my time with MP Viss. So first of all, I want to thank the department for being here. We know that Canada's seniors are particularly vulnerable to the health impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we certainly do know also that they have not been immune to the economic and social fallout. So COVID-19 has put a strain on the social services and the resources available to support Canada's seniors. And we know that this has exposed the fragility of our already existing network. So in a previous meeting, I actually shared particular struggles that some of my constituents are living with that do live in rural small communities, and they have limited access to supports. And we do know, again, that the Liberal carbon tax unfairly is penalizing these rural communities, and this also includes our seniors living in rural communities who have to drive a distance to get basic necessities like groceries or prescriptions. And shamefully, in the middle of this pandemic, the carbon tax price has gone up, taking more money out of their pockets. And, you know, as a member of Parliament for a riding that's made up of many small rural communities, I know that there are often barriers and challenges in access, supports, and services. So I guess one thing that I'm wondering is, with the closure of Service Canada offices, Canadians are required to access support by phone or online. So this presents specific challenges for some of Canada's seniors and greater challenges for those living in rural communities where network access is inconsistent. So I am wondering what timeline or plans are in place to reopen these offices, and how is this going to coincide with provincial reopening plans? So I'm in Saskatchewan, and for example, phase 2 will be starting on Tuesday. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I will pick up that question and pass it to my colleague Cliff Grown after. But at the high level, we effectively closed the centers, and we have kind of worked hard to improve our connection through phone, online, and also people could send email and get their answer within some standards. So we did our best to kind of help these communities that are more that are rural and more affected by that. Again, the service standards, our call centers, are not the best we ever had. Although we're
for sure. I'm sorry, I just have limited time and need to get to MPVIS. So I'm just wondering about a timeline. Is there a plan and a timeline? At least, is there a plan started?
I will ask my colleague Cliff Grown to answer that question.
Certainly, thank you very much for the question. So there are active plans underway within the department. We, as well as the rest of the country and frankly the globe, we continue to evolve our plans as the COVID pandemic evolves. But we certainly have active plans in place. We know it is important that we are able to open up our offices as quickly as possible, but it is also fundamentally critical that we do it so in a safe manner, both for our clients and for our staff. As a result, when we closed the offices, we did establish.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to pass my time over to MPVIS.
Thank you. I read in the Globe and Mail this morning that individuals earning up to $128,000 per year receive at least some payment under the OAS and will get the emergency benefit. Can officials please clarify that? Thanks, bud. Go to the other room. Thanks.
Yes. So, Mr. Chair, we have, as the minister mentioned before, there's a clawback, a tax recovery.
But seniors making $128,000 a year will get the $300 benefit.
If they are included in our database and are still receive OAS, some of them, in fact,
thank you.
Not be included.
So Tammy Sherrill, professor of economics at Wilfrid Laurier University, said it's easy to understand why Ottawa would see the need to assist lower income seniors. I agree. I've had a lot of seniors in my riding seeking additional supports. There's been some inflation in groceries in my riding, and especially in the rural areas. But Prof. Sherrill said that she has not heard a rationale from the government for why it did not simply target benefits to those seniors and instead chose to send funds to higher income seniors. Can the officials please provide the rationale as to why seniors making over $100,000 a year are going to be getting an additional grant from the government?
First, the benefit is going to provide more to those that are low income that are receiving the GS, as you know.
But you would also agree that it's going to be to seniors who also make over $100,000 a year, a six-figure income.
I did respond to that before.
Yeah, thank you.
I will continue my answer if you let me do that. I would also say that, as the minister mentioned, the GST top-up, GST credit top-up we provided to all Canadians from low and modest income benefit seniors in April, but only those of low and modest income benefited from that. So with this new benefit, we believe that the government believed that all the seniors were somewhat affected by higher costs. And so with this base $300 for all OAS eligible pensioner, we're covering all the seniors that were not covered up to now by other programs.
Okay, thank you. Just I have very limited time.
Mr. Robidoux. In fact, you have none. Next, we go to Mr. Turnbull for 6 minutes, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks for all the officials being here. I really appreciate you giving us your time and answering questions. On May 11th, there was an article regarding federal workers being supposedly told to ignore cheating in the CERB and EI claims process. If you could just give me a yes or no response to this, is ESDC ignoring cases of fraud?
We're not.
Thank you. And can you please explain the rationale behind the guidance that was given to employees in Service Canada, if you wouldn't mind?
Well, the guidance was provided to Service Canada because what we did with the CERB was to change our way to do integrity, to do more at the back end and less at the front end, because we had a huge volume to process. I would say, though, that if you read that memo, there's mention of 3 elements that still need to be done at the front end and are done by the people who process the benefit at the front end. So there's 3 elements. Same for CRA, they have some element at the front end. There will be also integrity process through the time that people receive their benefit, and there will also be at the back end elements to do integrity post-benefit later in the year. So we have a plan. It's just that we had to modify to flow the benefit, which was a priority of the government, but we have not give up in any way on.
So it was really a sorry to interrupt you. Yeah.
Process.
It was really a prioritization of speed, was it not?
It was. That was a priority, and we had to adapt the integrity model.
So if there were intensive front-end accountability measures for the CERB, for example, non-critical investigations referred to the Integrity Service Branch and stop pay orders similar to those in place for employment insurance, what effect would this have had on the timeliness of getting those payments out to Canadians that were in need?
The impact would have been huge. It would, if we'd have kept with the same approach that we do, as you provide as an example for EI, it would have been impossible to process all these claims with the speed we had, and people will not have received that benefit, and they will still be without receiving them as we speak.
So the 7.3 or more million Canadians that have received the CERB would still be waiting for those checks to arrive, likely?
For sure.
Okay, thank you. And what are we doing about cases of suspected fraud or cheating?
Right now, what we're doing is there's cases where there's clear fraud and we could find them early on. We just block these payments, and this is ongoing. And this is what we will do if there's a clear case of fraud at the entry.
So will you be able to reclaim
that memo? As you know, if we have someone coming with a SIN number that is a deceased person in our data bank, no payment. There's a few things we do right at the get-go, and there's a few more things we do very quickly after that to use data analytics to make sure that the clear case of fraud are not processing alone.
So we're not standing idly by while people take advantage of the system like it's been implied, right?
No.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. And then just a simple yes or no question. Were you asked to issue this guidance by the Prime Minister?
I was not, for sure.
You were not. Okay, thank you. And were you asked to issue that guidance by the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Disability Inclusion?
I was not.
Okay. And were you asked to issue this guidance by the Minister's office?
I was not.
Thank you very much. If I have a little bit more time, Mr. Chair, I will have one more question.
You have less than 2 minutes.
Okay, great. So just on a different line of questioning here related to seniors, how will the additional funding for New Horizons for seniors roll out? And who will be able to access it?
So the new $20 million for New Horizons for seniors, we just got this announced and approved. So we're looking at it. As the minister said, one of the avenue we'll look at is last year we had a number of applications for the New Horizons for Seniors program. We had quality and eligible projects that we were not able to fund last year. So one of the first things we'll look at is those applications, go back to those who applied to see if they could, as the minister mentioned, modify their proposal to adapt to a COVID situation, as we did for those to who we provided benefits, where we asked them, provide them with the flexibility to adapt their proposal. So that's the first avenue we'll surely look at very quickly going forward.
Okay, great, thanks. And one other question for you before my time's up, hopefully. I know that many vulnerable seniors were that were living on very low incomes prior to the COVID-19 crisis have been helped dramatically by our government's policies in the past. And I'm just wondering whether a study has been done on the impacts of the previous work that we've done on helping vulnerable seniors actually get through this crisis, and whether you think that that would be a good study to be done in the future.
A short answer, please.
It should be surely, as we get more data, a good study to look at using the income survey, for example.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Turnbull. Thank you, Mr. Robidoux. Suite, Madame Chabat.
Mrs. Chabat, 6 minutes. Hello. Thank you, Mr. Robidoux. I would like to ask a questions on New Horizons, but before that, I have a few questions that don't have to do with seniors, but rather the CERB and EI. I'm going to ask questions. We have had emergency benefits that were very necessary. We've contributed to this. We've added to the amounts. We know that these benefits will have an impact on people's lives. Now, for the wage subsidy program, we heard that it would be extended as needed. Now, as for CERB, it wasn't as clear. My question, we're talking about a 16-week period or 4 months for the CERB. So how does this allow for a transition to regular EI? Hello? We are working tirelessly to rethink the way that we can join people who are receiving CERB and how they can be connected to the EI system when those who began receiving benefits on March 15th will end their 16-week period. We are working tirelessly on this. We have very regular meetings on this subject. Our team is working very hard to join the two. Given the quantity of beneficiaries that receive these benefits, it's going to be quite a daunting task, but we're working to make sure that when they will be connected to the EI program, it will be in a reasonable amount of time, and the payments will be sent out as soon as possible. We're thinking about this, and we're also thinking about what will follow the CERB and all the programs in place. We do this regularly. We do it every day. Thank you for your answer, but I think as an MP, and I'm sure that many people want to have these discussions on the transition Because as you know, and I was in agreement with this, one of the huge advantages of CERB was to support workers who were not eligible for EI. So this was a huge adjustment. After mid-June, there will still be needs in place. And I think if we look to the future, I think we have to have this at the forefront of our thought process. My next question has to do with supplementary benefit for unemployment. All these agreements, either with municipalities or in the industrial sector, where they have agreements in order to increase this EI level, they have agreements with the federal government. Right now, there's no rules in place. Do you have an answer specifically how to solve this issue? Mrs. Chabat, for people who were receiving EI before March 15th, if they were a member of these plans, they can continue to receive a top-up from the employer who laid them off temporarily, most generally. So yes, it does exist for those who are receiving CERB after March 15th. It's not directly available in the way that we do with the people who are on EI. The flexibility is not the same, but employers who want to and who had to lay off some people, and that these employees are receiving CERB, they have the right to top up the CERB to an amount of $1,000 a month. So they can have up to $1,000 a month topped up. This is what has been allowed up until now. And so we are looking at the possibility of adjusting the programs on a regular basis. And it includes this element as well. This is part of what we're looking at right now. Thank you. I had already called the department and they said that they were aware of the issue. They were looking at possible solutions. But even with the $1,000 top-up that's allowed, I understand that's the answer that they gave me, but I think there'll still be a problem because the goal is to have proper agreements that should not punish workers who have the right to have EI. They've received CERB, but they should not be punished. This is due to them. And in the end, we need to support workers. We're not trying to take anything away from them. So we need to find a quick solution to this, especially those in seasonal industries. Yes, that's your 6 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the officials. I have a constituent who was hoping to apply for their student CERB. However, she makes $1,040, so she's $40 over the limit. Is there any flexibility at all with respect to the application process here, or does she have to turn down her job? She got part-time work making $1,040. Will she have to turn down that job in order to qualify for the student CERB?
I missed the beginning of the question because I was still in French. Sorry about that, but I think I got the gist of it. Yes, based on the regulation that are going to be that are public as of today, the threshold for the income exemption is the same than for CERB, so it's $1,000. So in principle, if you earn more than that, you are not eligible to the benefit for that 4-week period. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I would urge the government to take into consideration flexibility in that instance. I mean, it serves as a disincentive, right, for this individual to actually have to turn down their job because she's $40 over in qualifying. Now, we're we're in a situation where there are efforts to have people return to work. In some instances, I'm already hearing concerns from constituents about workplace safety, protective equipment, and so on, the lack of protective equipment and so on. If in those circumstances, a person refuses to return to work because they don't feel that is a safe work environment, would they still be eligible for CERB?
That's a very interesting question, a very good question. I will first mention that before CERB, after CERB, and as CERB exists, there's a labor code process for refusal to work because of you believe you are in danger or you put in danger someone. And so there's a process with the employers, and through that process, there's investigation and all that happen for federally regulated employees and employers. It's the federal government that would do that will look at this inspection. In fact, it's a labor program that is within ESDC that would do this. And I have to say that what is important to know is that through the process, that the worker is eligible should be paid by the employers. I think at the end of the process, if it's viewed that it was dangerous effectively to work, and you don't want to go back to work, you are totally eligible to CERB. But someone need effectively to use that protection through the labor code in a situation like that. This is what workers should do.
So you have to file a complaint and then wait for the outcome. And then in the meantime, do you have to keep on going to work?
No.
So as soon as you file the complaint, then you will be able to not go to work and then still.
Through that process, in most provinces
CERB.
and at the federal level, you could withdraw yourself from the work. The investigation is going on. If it's found at the end, for example, there was no danger, the employer couldn't have provide penalties or anything like that. So the employee is protected through that process of investigation, and that person should be paid too. So being paid suggests that the CERB is not an issue at that moment. It's at the end of that process.
All right. In terms of going forward with CERB or with the student CERB and so on, as the economy struggles to recover, what work is being undertaken that when people run out of the CERB, and those who may not be qualified for UI because that's why they got CERB, is there any thinking about that from the government side in terms of work being done to see how those individuals would be supported once their CERB runs out and they're not able to get employment because the economy is slow in its recovery?
Absolutely. This is, in fact, in the department, and for many people in the department, this is our basically what we do every day now. So we're thinking about the exit strategy. We're thinking about, as you just said, what happened to these people, what is the timing. The government just announced, extension to the wage subsidy, and it was a reflection of these analysis about is it the time to get out of it, or is there something to do? As you know, we have done through the student benefit, we did it through regulation to a large extent, the parameters which will allow us to really adapt in a better way if we needed to adapt to the summer without going to Parliament and have legislation, which is a bit more complex and longer. So we thought about making, so in a nutshell, I'd say we spend a lot of time on thinking about the return to work, the transition of the economy within this COVID period, and it occupies a lot of our time and our thinking.
I hope that the government will come forward with some sort of programming because a lot of people would be in trouble if not.
Thank you, Ms. Kwan. Thank you, Mr. Robidoux. Next, we have Mr. Shields for 5 minutes, please.
Mr. Chair, I would defer my time to MP Albus.
Mr. Albus, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today. I wasn't going to be coming up, but MP Turnbull raised my interest on a few things. Now, we have reports that public servants are not looking into cases, but actively ignoring potential fraud and ineligible people when it is obvious. Now, that is not doing that is not doing checks later. That is ignoring the issues that are right in front of the public servant. Conservatives aren't saying dig into every case. We're saying that when it's obvious and someone is not eligible, that they should not ignore that and they should look into that. We're not saying slow down the system. We're saying ensure that the resources go to the right people. Now, my question, the CERB Act clearly states eligibility, yet you've said here that a memo has authorized the department to not verify eligibility. How do you justify an internal policy that is inconsistent or contrary to the will of Parliament?
So I could turn to Cliff Brown right after that on this memo, but that memo was not saying don't look at any integrity issue. It was saying look on only the critical and essential integrity issue at the entry, because if we would have continued to do like on the iSystem, where essentially most of the files are looked into, it would have been impossible to continue. So as an adjustment to the integrity framework at the front end, it was not abandoning any check and balance at the get-go. And so that's what the memo was saying, was not depicted this way clearly. And I will ask Cliff.
Well, no, I'll ask the next question, please. You said that no political direction was given. How is that possible? Are you saying that the department makes the rules versus Parliament?
I'm not saying that. The government made clear direction that the priority was to provide the benefit to Canadians, and we needed to adapt our system to do that, and we did.
So the government doesn't have to follow the words that are approved by Parliament. Are you saying the government ignored the law? Did the government give you direction to ignore the law?
We didn't ignore the law. We follow the law that was approved by Parliament for the CERB, and we follow the integrity framework that is presented in that. We're doing exactly what the law allows us to do. We have adapted.
I'm sorry, sir. The CRB Act says very clearly. It says very clearly that someone has to have $5,000 worth of income,
Excuse me,
and they
Mr.
also
Elvis,
need to.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Yeah, Mr. Vaughn.
This is really objectionable in terms of accusing a senior member of the public service of deliberately breaking the law.
That's not a point of order.
And I would ask that the chair rule this line of questioning out of order in respect to the fact that it is a direct attack on the integrity of the individual, and he is unable to defend himself as the member opposite continually interrupts.
Mr. Vaughn, I respectfully disagree. This is a matter that is relevant. Mr. Albus, just out of courtesy to the witness, you should allow him to respond, but your questions are not inappropriate. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try my best. Sir, you've said here today that you are you're following a memo and not what is laid out in the CERB Act. So let me ask you this question. If a senior, let's say age 75, who phones in or applies online, has no T4 income or any other income for the 2019 year, would they be red flagged, and would they be processed under the current memo?
I will go back to earlier to your question. You said
I'd like, you know what, maybe that line of questioning, perhaps, Mr. Vaughn, but if you could please answer my question.
You said that I said that I was following we were following a memo and not following the law in doing the integrity process. We are following exactly what is written in the law when it comes to integrity with the CERB. Number one.
I'd like you to answer my question in terms of a retiree, 75, phones, email, or applies online, has zero income in terms of employment income that would qualify for the CERB. Would they be red flagged right now? And would they be processed right now under this memo?
We have no income data when they applied in the system. CRB doesn't have that set up too. This that type of integrity will happen at the back end of the process at the end of the year, when we'll have the data and we'll then claw back the benefit if they didn't have the $5,000. So this will happen. It just doesn't happen now.
So if someone phones in right now and again is age 75, first of all, do you treat someone of a particular age differently? Is there any kind of questions? Because I've heard from someone that says that they actually are asked further questions if they are age 75 and older. Can you confirm that?
On that specific question, Cliff Crown will answer.
Thank you very much. To respond to the questions, first of all, I'd like to be clear. There is a requirement for any applicant to complete an attestation in which it is very clear what the requirements are, and they are fully aligned to what is in the legislation. Any individual, in order to apply and receive the benefit, has to complete that attestation in which they are confirming that they meet all of the eligibility criteria, including regarding income that they would have received, regarding their eligibility, such as age.
Can I ask you to answer the question, though, about the senior?
Thank you, Mr. Albus, and thank you, Mr. Groen. We are out of time. Next, we have Ms. Young for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'd like to just start by commending our public servants for just an amazing job that they've been doing over the past 2 months. Exceptional, considering the circumstances and considering that we're all trying to work under stressful conditions. So I do want to make sure that they are commended. I did have questions about the registered retirement income funds. The government announced that it was reducing the required minimum withdrawals from RIFs by 25% for this year. Do we know how many seniors you estimate would be taking advantage of this new measure? Is there any idea at this point?
This is thanks for the question. This is a program that is managed by the Department of Finance, and I have to say I have no data about that. And it will be a bit difficult, probably even for them to answer that question, because seniors could use that, have all the year to exploit that, to kind of take opportunity of that 25%. So to be clear, there's rule about how much minimum you need to withdraw from your RIF, but this could happen the last day of the year. So it's hard right now to know how this is affecting seniors, because they could manage their financial situation the way they need or they prefer. And until the end of the year, it will be very difficult to answer that question, I believe, even for officials from the Department of Finance.
Okay, thank you. Also, I wanted to ask about the $350 million that's going to be provided to charities. We heard about the United Way, the Red Cross, and other charities that are going to be able to deliver programming. But there were, we still are trying to get details from these groups, and a number of seniors that I talked to are still questioning how they are going to take advantage of this. How is that money going to be dispersed specifically to seniors in various communities?
So are you talking about the 9 million, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I will, instead of trying to give you the best of my answer, I will ask Janet Golden to give you, who run that program, to give you the best answer possible. Okay, I guess maybe
Can you hear me? Sorry, I was having trouble with the unmute. Sorry about that. Yeah, so the additional $9 million that was allocated through the New Horizons for Seniors program is being administered through the United Way Canada. But the way the money is being distributed is to local organizations who are providing services directly to seniors. So services like delivering essential services like food or medication, helping seniors get to medical appointments. And so it's not the United Way themselves, but they are providing those, providing that funding directly to organizations working in communities across the country who already provide services to seniors to allow them to continue to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Depending on how long this pandemic lasts, and that is the big question that we have, is the department considering more top-ups of GIS or OAS? You did talk about an exit strategy. I'd be very happy to hear that we are looking towards that. But there is fear, and certainly fear within the seniors community, that this will last a long time, and possibly the top-up that we've announced this week will only be enough for a couple of months. Is there consideration in the long term that we might have to add to this again?
As I said, we spend a lot of time every day on this these days, and we're looking at all the possible permutation possible, depending how the economy will recover, or the COVID, or the as socialization is relaxed, how things will evolve. So we have different scenario. We're thinking about different options, and we're looking at, should we, for example, and I'm not going to pick any benefit in particular, but should we expand some of these benefits as they are for how long? We're looking at, should we indeed expand them but modify them? We're looking at when we should in fact stop them, and in that context, we're thinking also for those, for example, that were receiving the CERB and are EI eligible, how to take these people and put them back into the EI system in a way that they will still have a smooth transition and receive the benefit they are entitled for. So we're thinking about all these different permutations, and the only thing I could say, we spent a lot of time on that.
Thank you, Mr. Robidoux. Thank you, Ms. Young. And now we're back to the Conservatives for 5 minutes, and I'm not sure whether it's Mr. Shields or Mr. Albus, but the Conservatives for 5 minutes, please.
If Mr. Shields wants to go, I'm more than happy to let him, but I can take a round. I'm just respectful of our guests. Okay, well, I'll take it then.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Martin. So I'd like to go back to the question about eligibility. Now, in the CERB Act officials, they have 3 parts. You need to be physically in Canada, you need to have made $5,000 of employment income, and you need, again, to have lost or, to have ceased work due to COVID-19. I'd like an answer. Do you treat, is there any extended checks when someone identifies themselves as being age 75 or older? I've heard anecdotally from someone that there's an extra check process for that. Can you confirm?
I do believe that for people who apply to CRE, there's a check for the age. I don't know if it's related to 75, but there's a check. There's also a check about you mentioned the age, the lower age. I believe there's a check there too at CRE. So when we could on those, without hurting the delivery of the payments, we do the check we could on those basic information we have. So that's, I hope, answering your question.
Okay, so let's say someone who is age 75 has not shown any income. So one of the eligibility requirements is $5,000 of income in 2019. Are you saying that Service Canada nor CRA, who, by the way, should have that information easily accessible, they do not check that?
I think that I could turn again to Cliff to give you exactly if we do for 75. Again, we check what we have as information, and we would do that. I would remind you there's a lot of people 75 plus that, well, a lot. There's some 75 plus that do work and have earned income in the previous year. So all that to say is when we have the information, we do check, but we are not trying to gather information outside of the system to check these things at the entry point.
Okay. Well, in regards to the $5,000, if someone has not shown that they've earned $5,000, is there a red flag put on their account?
And for people who applied at Service Canada, we don't have that information, so there's no red flag possible. And I will let.
What about the CRA?
I will let a CRA official to speak for that, if they've put a red flag or not for that.
Okay, going back to your comments earlier that you were not asked by the Prime Minister or the Minister of Employment, are you saying that the memo was 100% originated in the public service?
The government gives off direction about what was the intent of the policy. This was provided by the legislation. It was provided by the direction that it was very important for us to deliver that benefit as quickly as possible to Canadians. And the operation of the benefit kind of fall out of that approach.
How was this direction documented?
I will turn to Cliff.
Sure. Thank you, Benoit. So the when we deliver any type of program, our starting basis is the legislation. All of our actions, all the guidance and direction we provide to our staff.
How was it documented, sir?
So the documentation starts with the legislation, and then we have guidance that we develop for our staff, and that is the process that we use.
So is there a actual document where the Prime Minister or Cabinet or the Honorable Carla Qualtrough as the lead minister on this file, in what form was it documented to give direction to utilize this policy?
So again, as I was answering, the documentation is the legislation. We use the legislation, then we have to loyally implement the legislation as it is drafted.
Then
that
how is it, sir, that people who have not made $5,000 or are of an age where they may not, like I said earlier, they may or may not be eligible, how are you able to determine eligibility and to issue the check?
So the design of the program is clear. It is an attestation-based model in which information is requested from the clients to confirm that they meet those criteria. Then in addition, other questions are asked of those individuals, and we use that information at times for upfront controls, and there are payments that are stopped. At other times, those are after the fact. If we decided to put all the upfront controls in place, we would be in a situation in which millions of Canadians would not have received payments. We
I do believe, sir, that you would still have
people. Mr. Elvis, that's your time. If you want to take another 10 or 15 seconds to complete your answer, go ahead, but there won't be another question. Go ahead, Mr. Groen, if you need to.
Thank you. Both us and CRA have lots of measures. If there have been payments made to individuals that are not eligible, we have lots of measures available to us and CRA in which that money will be recovered.
Thank you. And next we have Mr. Long for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the department. This is for anybody in the department. The recent HUMA report, Advancing Inclusion and Quality for Life for Seniors, recommended that the federal government work with federal, provincial, and territorial ministers responsible for health and social programs to develop pan-Canadian guidelines for services to be provided to seniors regardless of where they reside in Canada. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted both issues related to limited services as well as inequities across the country. Moreover, it was recently reported that 79% of all deaths from COVID-19 are related to long-term care facilities. Question: what actions is the government taking in the short term to work with provincial and territorial partners to ensure that seniors have access to the supports they need to age in place? Thank you. Anybody can take that.
Catherine, are you on the line?
Sorry, Benoit, I am on the line. I'm not sure I heard the entire question, but Chair, I believe it's a question regarding a recent report from HUMA around inclusion for seniors. I'm not sure that I have anything to add to the answers that the minister provided around the short-term or urgent work that's being done with provincial territorial governments to support seniors both in long-term care facilities, but then the minister also talked about her own work on the New Horizons for Seniors program and with organizations like the United Way, Canadian Red Cross, to support local organizations who deliver services. So I'm not sure I have anything additional to add to her answers.
Thank you. Can you then comment on what the government can do in the longer term to ensure that seniors have access to safe and appropriate health home care or long-term care, regardless of where they reside? Can you just give us some comments on long-term?
So I don't think I would try to comment, Chair, on long-term care and home care policies. I know, as the minister said, colleagues at Health Canada who have the lead role with provincial territorial governments are thinking about the long-term implications of the pandemic, but you'd be best placed to ask them those questions.
Okay, thank you. In April, the government announced an additional $350 million would be provided to charities and nonprofits to deliver essential services. There were few details provided, though, other than the funds would flow through national organizations and be quickly distributed to local organizations that serve vulnerable populations. Could you please provide more details as to how these funds will be used to support organizations that provide essential services to vulnerable seniors?
I'd like to ask Janet Golden to answer this question.
Ms. Golding, you're on mute there.
There we go. Sorry about that. Thank you for the question. So yes, the $350 million Emergency Community Support Fund, we expect that our partners, the United Way, Community Foundations Canada, and the Red Cross will be opening a call for proposals very shortly. So there will be a very transparent process for organizations to find out how they can apply to the fund, and the funds are of course targeted to charities and nonprofits who are providing services directly to vulnerable populations who are impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. So that information will be available publicly on their websites very shortly.
Thank you. Can you just comment too quickly on what measures are being put in place to ensure that social service workers have access to the training?
Mr. Long, you're out of time. Thank you. Madame Chabat, pour
2.5 minutes. Yes, did you call on me? Yes, 2.5 minutes. Thank you. Well, this is the question I wanted to ask earlier with regards to workers in the seasonal industry. You know, these are workers who were in the black hole period of EI, and we were pleased that they were able to be eligible to CERB, since work in their sector might start late or might not start up at all. This is a major issue. Are you thinking that some workers might not be called back to work at all? How are you going to calculate their hours, if you will, even if they're receiving CERB, so that they will be qualified for EI in the fall? You made announcements with regard to the fisheries sector yesterday, and I saw something that had specifically to do with EI and fishers. So are these types of measures that are being looked at, that are being considered, or that are not being considered? If we talk about workers in seasonal industries. Thank you, Mrs. Shabat. As I was saying earlier, all these individual cases that will come up later this summer or in the fall, depending on what happens over the summer, is being looked at very carefully. We're looking at different things that are possible, what options will be available to the government at that time. Okay, so if I understand, there's no answer yet. There's no answer to this question. So we will see. I would like to end. I don't have another question, but I didn't really want to bring up this issue of people that are committing fraud with regards to CERB, but what concerns me as an MP even more is to look at the support that will be provided to businesses, to the industry, that will be beneficial. But what happens with those who are putting their money in tax havens? So I'm perhaps more concerned with tax evasion than a few people. Well, I'm not pointing anyone by the finger, but I'm not sure. I'm sure no one is acting in bad faith. But the CERB is an emergency measure, and I'm not very concerned about that. Maybe some people abuse the system, but really, in the end, Mr. Chair, in my writing, there was an old person, a senior who had. The interpreter is sorry, but the sound is breaking up and is inaudible for interpretation purposes. I apologize.
Merci beaucoup. Ms. Kwan gets the last word. 2.5 minutes, Ms. Kwan.
Thank you very much. Could officials give us an update what work is being done to ensure that single parents with children who have lost their income because their ex cannot provide for spousal or child maintenance, what work is being done? The minister, last time she appeared before this committee, said she was actively thinking about this. It's been more than almost a month now since this has been brought to her attention. What work is being done to address this issue?
We are, thank you for the question. We are keep looking at, this is one of the angle about with the benefit for those women that we're looking at right now. So this is part of things we look at what could be done through the CRB to help those people. So
when can we
I
expect?
could tell you we are looking at it and trying to find. I couldn't tell you when, but I could tell you we are looking closely to that issue.
Okay, well, I hope something will be done very quickly. I mean, each month passes, these families are getting more and more desperate and they've had no support. So I just want to flag that. On another question, Canada Summer Job, the government have changed the criteria without consulting MPs. While I support increasing the eligibility hours and 100% funding for NGOs, the problem with that is that it does not come with additional funding for the riding. So effectively, it means that less organizations will get the support for the Canada Summer Job Program. Is there any consideration in increasing the overall budget for the Canada Summer Job Program?
First made all these adjustments because we were concerned that the demand for summer job would be less than expected. As you know, we wanted to create 70,000 jobs, and we were concerned because of the COVID-19 and the socialization that a lot of less job would be like employers would have applied in a time pre-COVID, and we thought a lot of them would, when we would offer them the funding, not have the job still available because of their business being either shutting down or reduced to a large extent. So we are in the process of doing that now. We'll know more about what is the take up on the jobs and how the flexibility help to keep at least the same. And I could tell you that the minister is quite ready to think about adjusting as we move forward when we'll have more information about what is the real demand for those who have applied. And also we have asked for MPs to give us, the minister asked MPs to give us, to inquire in their writing about what would be maybe supplementary demand for these employment.
Thank you,
jobs.
Mr. Robidoux. Thank you.
We are
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Robidoux.
Program as we move forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kwan. That completes the time that we have allocated and then some. I want to offer a sincere thanks to all of the officials who have appeared before us today. Thank you for your patience and thank you for your professionalism. We very, very much appreciate the work that you do and appreciate the effort that you have put in here before the committee today. With that, we are past the hour. I will therefore adjourn the meeting. We'll see you in a week. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. See everyone. Have a great weekend.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Chair. Inaudible.